Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. And today, I get to hang out with my old friend, Jason Martin.
Whoa. Watch the old part.
My ancient, decrepit friend.
Hey, thank you for that introduction, Johnny. Great being with you again. Get off my lawn.
The stand-up comedian of the hour, who is the VP and General Manager of Alaska Business. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Johnny's great to be here. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate our long-lasting ancient friendship as well. So thanks
it's good.
For being here.
I'm glad you were able to get that decrepit body out of bed to even be here today.
It hurt.
It's a miracle.
It hurt, but it does every morning. So getting old.
So what are you passionate about, man? And you can say comedy, stand up, whatever. But what are you passionate about?
You know, you hit it there with humor. That's kind of a foundational element in my life. Ever since I was a kid, class clown type things. Went into theater, wanted to find more of that funny, wanted to find ways to more professionally put myself in front of people and get laughs. So it's, and then from there went on to start an improv troupe, the longest running improv troupe here in Alaska. And have just always found my way back to humor and back to comedy. So that really is a foundational element in my life and one of the things I'm passionate about. Not like I'm starting some Alaska Comedy Foundation or something like that. So it's not passion that manifests itself in ways to necessarily help others, but it certainly entertains me. And sometimes at the detriment of my marriage, really, because I'm making silly jokes when I probably should be more serious. But
I don't believe you.
But somehow we've lasted 25 years, so she's still putting up with me. So.
Yeah. She knew what she signed up for.
She did. We met in high school originally, and then we then met again 10 years later in a theater production. So we were cast opposite each other as George and Mary Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. So we got to fall in love on stage, and everybody around us was like, "Oh, you guys are a thing," and we're like, "No, we're not." Well, it turns out we were. We just didn't know it yet.
So you really didn't know? You really didn't know, or did you have an idea?
I mean, there were the butterflies and everything, but I had been in enough theater productions that you kind of temper that, like you kind of force that down. Like, is this real, or is it because I'm acting with this person and I'm supposed to feel this way? So you've got to kind of keep those feelings in check in theater, and it's hard to do that, and that's why there's lots of theater relationships that last as long as a production. Because by the time the production's over, you're like, oh, turns out we didn't really like each other that much after all. We were just cast in these roles. But we just don't have experience in that in the real world, where you're forced in front of somebody that you're supposed to act like you like. I mean, I guess maybe in business we sometimes get thrust in those roles. But if you have the luxury of putting yourself in front of people you like, then it's not work. And that's one of the things. Back on the passion subject. Yeah, I think funny is so important in everyday life. I think, for me, every day I wake up and I try to think of what the funniest thing is that day. This was 100 years ago, so forgive the Wayback Machine, but I was on a PBS podcast. This was a big nationwide thing. It was one of my first podcasts ever, and I was really excited about it. And there was a child psychologist who was on with me, and then the host of this show. And the subject, the reason I was on the show in the first place was because of improv, because comedy, improv, and parenting. She was this child psychologist, and she was talking about how to incorporate humor in the development of a child and their growth. And she said the most important thing you can do, this is the lecture part of the TED Talk, thank you for coming, is not ask them how their day was. Because what becomes a formulaic question becomes a formulaic answer.
Yes.
How was your day today? It was good. And nothing evolves from that.
Yes.
So she said to really challenge yourself and ask a new question every time. So every time you pick them up from school, ask them a different question about their day. What was the most challenging thing from your day today? What was the funniest thing from your day today? What is one thing you're going to remember in a week from your day today? So just different ways of getting at and focusing on. It's the same question, just come at it from a different angle, and you're going to get different answers, you're going to get different responses. And one of my favorite questions after having done that podcast and heard that was like, oh my gosh, we're asking the wrong questions of our son as he's growing up. So the very next day I asked him, hey, what was the funniest thing to happen today? And he just burst out laughing. And I'm like, okay, this is real. This is happening. Like, this is so much better than, oh, my day was good. How was yours? So to bust into and just to kind of change the focus of how was your day to what was the funniest part of your day. And then that becomes something you want to talk about. That becomes something you want to engage others in, and you want to share that joy. So all of a sudden our dinner time conversations became much more interesting and much funnier, and then that became kind of more of the static question, at least several times a week. It was like, what was the funniest thing to happen today? And then you start looking for it. And then over the course of your day, and that's now as an adult, and my adult son, I still feel this way and still look at my own day as what was the funniest thing to happen today. So I've got something to talk about when I get in front of my wife when we're back and have the luxury of being together after a long day's work. But really just kind of framing everything about what was so funny today, what was so much fun that I want to share with you.
Now let me ask this question: what's underneath that? Funny.
Tears, Johnny.
Yeah,
it hides the tears.
It's the tears of a cloud.
Right.
Because I see how you use funny, how you use humor, and it's not just an end to itself. There's something you're accomplishing through humor. What is that?
Selfishly, it's just joy. I mean, it really is, for me, it's just fun. I really enjoy life. I enjoy fun. I wake up every morning, and this sounds so cheesy and so formulaic, but I wake up every day looking forward to it. Yeah. Grateful to open my eyes, grateful to be above ground, grateful to be here, and finding the joy in the little things. So really the purpose for me behind that humor is to share some of that joy of the world, share some of that passion for life. We're not here for very long. We're only here for just a moment in this vast universe, in this huge planet. We're a blink and we're gone. So just absolutely making the most of that time we have. And I find through humor, it's such a connective element. I mean, you can be anywhere in the world and you can find humor across cultures and fart jokes. They're always funny. It doesn't matter who.
Always funny.
At least maybe for the 12-year-old boy in me. Yeah. So I guess that's the source for me for that quest for humor and that passion and the interest in it is to share that and just to make the world a little better place just through a shared smile across the supermarket, whatever it might be, just some way to find fun and humor in life.
Do you find yourself connecting with strangers that way? Like
oh yeah. And that's I'm obviously an extrovert. My wife is a closet introvert. You meet her, you think, oh my gosh, she's obviously so outgoing and she's so well spoken and she's beautiful, and I'm just going to keep talking about her because she's going to watch this. So it's important that I suck up to her now just to get off the couch. I could be like, hey, remember that one time on Johnny's show when I spoke really nicely about you? Maybe I can get off the couch now. Maybe. But yeah, absolutely. So even just with connecting with strangers, and we were riding. This again, another wife story. We were riding in a cab going to Disney World, and the cabbie said, so we're talking to a cabbie, and I tend to overtalk with everybody, which is why I was so quick to jump on this opportunity to talk your ear off, Johnny. So my wife, the closet extrovert, is just kind of like, oh, here we go again, we're talking to strangers, and we've got like this 40-minute cab ride with what would be this stranger, but it turns out he's probably the wisest person I'll ever get to meet.
Yeah.
So important that we listen to everybody. And he said, because we were talking back and forth, he's like, man, I really like talking to you. I'm like, I really like talking to you. Like, in another world, if we lived in Florida, we'd probably be hanging out, because we're just a really cool guy. And he said, everybody has a lesson to teach us, but sometimes we just don't have the time to listen. And it was just like, it was such a profound statement that even thinking about it now, I'm just getting goosebumps. Like everybody has lived this journey. Everybody has done things you can't even imagine, and you'll never understand, and you'll never get to experience. But everybody has those stories in them. And much like you, Johnny, I love stories. I love people and connecting with people and hearing their stories and trying to massage those stories out of people. So if I'm stuck in an elevator with somebody, it's not, oh, it's unseasonably warm for this time of year. Oh, which floor are you going to? Hey, you're smiling. What are you smiling about today? Like, oh, that's a weird question to ask a stranger, but let's get talking. Let's get to know each other for this brief journey and this moment of interaction that we have. And maybe I'll be lucky enough to be that cabbie in Florida where people are still talking about me years later as being profound, funny, and brought something to this stage of life. Not this stage of life, but this life that is stage.
Absolutely.
But bringing something to the masses and to each other.
Well, I have a word for that, and that is, and it's part of why you and I get along so well. I think we're both connectors.
I thought it was just a haircut.
Yeah, haircut. We connect over.
Stylist.
We connect over baldness.
Yep.
And I will say this was not like voluntary.
Same.
This happened
Right.
to me, and then I embraced it, and then I married a woman that said she wouldn't have married me if I had an afro. So win-win, right?
My wife was the same way. She's like, I wouldn't have married you with an afro. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
good because I can't grow one.
You can't do that. You can't do
I
that.
cannot.
I don't know.
I've tried.
I don't know. I don't never seen you with hair, so I don't know what it looks like up there. So, connecting with people
Yeah.
is incredibly important to me. And you take risks. There's certain people I think that have a propensity for a willingness to take risks in social environments and say, you know what, I'm going to ask that person a deep question that might make them uncomfortable. And let me tell you something, bro. I do this all the time. If I'm on a plane, if I'm at Starbucks, I do it all the time. 95 out of 100 times, it's well received.
Right.
And I have a really cool conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
5 out of 100 times, folks are like, you're weird. And none of your business. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? I didn't come here to connect with anybody. So, but most people want to connect. That's what I found.
I think it's human nature to want to connect, and I think even as kids we all have that. Like if you put if you put two kids in a sandbox from different cultures, different backgrounds, whatever it is, within 5 minutes they will be playing together. They'll develop their own set of rules. They'll figure out whatever it is they're playing, and they will have made a game that they're both enjoying within minutes.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, and we're these old people, and you put these two adults in a sandbox, and they're just going to stand on opposite sides of it, and like kick sand around and ask about the weather.
Yeah.
Like, how did we go from that playful state as kids, where we can find joy together, set up rules that we can agree with and play with and have fun, and end that encounter enriched for it, to where we become these adults where we can't even look at each other in an elevator without it being awkward? Like, when like, that fascinates me about human existence. Like, how did we get to that point? Like, no, you can't say that. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that risk in talking to a stranger.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's risk in not doing it. I feel like there's risk in not sharing, and that's why I'm an oversharer. That's why those 5% of the people will be like, oh yeah, I know Jason, he talks way too much. Yeah. I mean, that actually may be the 95% of the people that say Jason talks way too much. But yeah, I have that same experience where you'll get a finger on the pulse of that person, and they're standoffish, and you're like, okay, this isn't what I'm going to push through and try and force myself on them just because I want to have this conversation. If they obviously do not, then you go back to smiling and nodding and looking at each other in the awkward elevator ride that's taking up several floors. Luckily,
That's
in
right.
Alaska, like, our tallest building I think might be 20 floors, so it's a short elevator ride.
Yeah. That's great. So your environment helps you out there. So my answer to your question is, why do we go from being those little kids to these adults? And my answer to that would be fear. I think we learn fear.
But isn't it the grown-ups teaching those kids that fear? Because again, you put those kids in the sandbox, they're just glad to be away from grown-ups. They are glad to make their own rules. They're glad to play their own game. But then they grow up to be those fearful adults that we are. Like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. You're a stranger. Because stranger danger, and those are bad things. And yes, those realities, unfortunately, are true in the world. Yeah. But I think there's more risk in not taking that plunge and not 100%. Connecting. Yeah.
100%. I agree with you. I think we learned somewhere along the line, some variation of this idea is that I'm not enough. I think some situation, like for most of us, we have some inflection point or traumatic moment where we came to the belief that we were not enough or can't cut it. That's what I hear whenever, I do plenty of deep diving with people. I'm sure you do plenty of deep diving with people. And when I deep dive, and it's like, okay, well, what is making you afraid? Almost always comes down to some kind of variation of that self-belief. Yeah. Yeah.
And that self-doubt. Yeah. When it starts creeping in, that's a hard voice to temper. That's a hard one to push back down. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the comedy improv side of things, and with life, so much of my life, I mean, literally half of it was spent on the boards, was spent doing theater and doing improv. So much of my life is through that lens of improv. And one of the adages there is to follow your foot. So even if you don't know why you're being compelled to walk on stage for this improvised scene, something in your body, something in your gut is saying, I need to be out there. And not for selfish reasons, not like,
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to go get a laugh, so I'm going to walk on stage. But you're watching this scene with your scene partners, and you're like, it needs something, I don't know what it is, but my gut is saying get in there. So you follow your foot.
Yeah.
So you go out there on stage, and then together you discover the reason and the purpose for for you joining that scene. And I find myself drawn in social situations that same way. Like, how can I help elevate this conversation? How can I make that person look good? How can I yes and their joke to make it even more impactful, to get a bigger laugh for them, not for me, but to heighten their situation. Because in doing so, that person's like, oh hi, that Jason saved me from a really awkward situation. I made a joke that went flat. He picked up on it, added to it, got a little better laugh. I picked up on it, made a little even better laugh. Next thing you know, we're all laughing. So
Yeah.
finding those moments where you can elevate each other is really important to me.
That's not the first time you've given me life wisdom in the
Oh, I
packaging
have
of,
many,
of
Chris.
improv. So, like, that's an important improv is an important framework for you in terms of how you view the world.
Right.
Yeah.
With half my life spent on stage that way, I learned, and you know, you talked earlier about like getting to my origin story. Part of that origin story didn't start at the origin, but I mean, I guess it did, because the fuel was already there, but I didn't really learn to light the match until I was an adult, and I learned like, oh, okay, all this playfulness, there is a way to channel that. There is a positive way to use that, and I realized like so many of the improv tools I've been using my whole life. Yes, and is such a great example of that. But that's exactly what those kids in the sandbox are doing. They're just agreeing with whatever one kid just smashing Tonka trucks into the other, and the other kid on the other side of the sandbox might be building a sandcastle, and like, okay, well, I don't want you to wreck my sandcastle, but I also want to play with your Tonka truck. So how do we come together? How are we going to make this work together? And finding a way to get both those kids playing is where I find myself even as an adult. Again, finding situations where I can be that kid in those situations, and we can establish our rules together, and we can play
As adults.
as
Right?
adults. Yeah,
Like, yeah, we can enter into the game together, which is so cool. It's so cool, and it's so true too, I think. Now, let me ask this question. I feel like you had mentioned to me that you had a book inside of you. You're going to write a book someday about like the improv rules and business and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, with as much of my life wrapped up in improv and spending time on the boards that way, and improv at its core is just communication. It's learning how to listen, but not just listen and let it go in your ear and come out, but being an active listener, actually taking in that information, processing it, and giving back something to that conversation. Or in the case of an improv scene, you're accepting whatever your scene partner is suggesting, you're adding to it, and you're giving it back to them to make an even stronger scene. And then by the end, it's better than the sum of its parts. And I believe that's every collaborative effort. That's every time you walk into a meeting with people you don't know. It's that opportunity to elevate each other by accepting what they're giving you. Even if you don't necessarily agree with it, accept it. Learn why there's a difference of opinion, and then evolve from there. Here's another adage for you. Here's another takeaway. So with every group, when you come together, there's that stage of awkwardness, and this happens in the elevator when you're meeting somebody for the first time. This happens on a first date. This happens when Nine Inch Nails walks out on stage and they're performing in front of 400,000 people. The same steps take place regardless when you're standing in front of or introduced to a new person or a new group, when you're presenting, whatever it might be. And that's form, storm, norm, perform.
Yep.
So the group comes together, that's forming, right? You and I, even on a podcast, we've known each other over Zoom meetings and stuff like that, but even here we're trying, we're kind of feeling each other out for how the podcast environment works. So we've come together, that form. Storm is like, okay, I've stepped on you a few times, like you stepped on me once maybe because you're a much better listener than I am. But I've stepped on you a few times. So that's the storm. We're trying to figure out the cadence and the pacing of the conversation. And again, this is Nine Inch Nails. This is Trent Reznor walking out on stage, and the audience is cheering, or maybe they're not. And he's like, okay, well, this is a different concert tonight. I got to figure out why. Why are they quiet tonight when they were so loud last night? Right? So, and in that storm, you're still trying to figure out the pacing and the cadence and the energy between the parties. So form and then storm, that's that part of it. And then norm, like, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to listen more so I don't step on Johnny quite as much. He's just a great listener, so he doesn't have to change his energy at all. But together we're going to have a more two-way communication. And that's that norm. Okay, cool. Now we get it. Now we understand our place in this relationship, this podcast, this concert, this improv show, this board meeting. And then once that happens and everybody understands the roles and everybody understands that energy, that's when you perform. That's when the group is firing on all cylinders. That's when the concert goes off the chart. That's when everybody understands the pace and the energy in that moment. And there's that, that joke is, like read the room, know your audience, those things. That comes in that moment of that perform, when everything is clicking and everything's firing right, and the collaboration is all on deck, and everybody is adding their parts to it, making it bigger than the sum of its parts. So form, storm, norm, perform. That's
a great framework, and I actually learned that framework under a different name.
Oh yeah.
But it's the exact same framework. No, it's the exact same framework. It's the 4 steps are pseudo community, chaos, emptiness, true community.
I love it. Yeah.
But it's phase for phase the same thing that you just said. It's how communities form, and I've seen it happen. I can't tell you how many times. In fact, the worst thing you can do is try to hold off chaos.
Right.
And be unwilling to step into chaos, because true community is on the other side of chaos, right? True community is on the other side, like in yours, like performing is on the other side of storming. If you don't go through the storming, because some people are very conflict averse, and we think conflict is bad. It's not bad if you're willing to go through it, right? But if you're not willing to go through it, then you'll have less heartburn in your life, but you'll also have less of a feeling of real, authentic community with other people.
I think you just prolong the heartburn. I think you just push it off. Like you sweep it under the rug to trip over it later. Like you're still going to have to deal with that stuff, but let's deal with it now. Let's deal with it together and become a stronger pair or a stronger party, a stronger theater group, whatever it might be. Deal with it together and then, come together on the other side stronger.
Have you seen this in your organization?
Oh, once I learned that sequence, I think of it almost like Beautiful Mind, right? Like the movie where like all these numbers and things, like you start feeling it. You start feeling it in situations, and you start recognizing where you are in the process. And I learned that about the same time I was coming back to work at the magazine. I've been here for 25-ish years. Originally as a graphic designer, and then fast forward, my son is born, and then I come back to take over my father's role as general manager. And in coming back, I was deeply ingrained in improv. Everything I did coming back here was improv. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was having to make it up as I go, as I think most of us as adults are doing. Maybe some of the people listening to this are like, nope, I got all my stuff figured out. I'm not that guy. I'm still trying to figure it out. But that form, storm, norm, perform really helped me when we were recreating and making this Alaska business, call it 2.0, but I mean at that point we'd had several iterations of the company with different managers, different publishers, different business models. But in the model that myself and my business partner Charles Bell were looking at making, we wanted a much more collaborative group. We didn't want a publisher who was in charge of everything and telling everybody what to do. We wanted those experts, the experts in the editorial team, the experts in the production team, even the experts on the sales team, telling us what they need. And then creating this group, this collaborative group, where everybody has a voice and we all excel together. So once I brought that form, storm, norm, perform to my own mindset and to the workplace, then that fear was gone. Because once it's chaos and you're just like, rebel against the chaos. No, lean into it. Like that's where the magic's going to happen. Because when you do push through that, that's when, because like the moment before that, you were in the eye of the storm. Every direction you look is storm. But until you push through that storm, you're not going to see the sunshine. So you've got to get through that storm. You've got to push yourself. And the same that idea, follow your foot. The evolution of that is follow your fear. So the growth takes place in that place of fear. Once you push through that fear and you get to the other side, and you're like, oh, hey, cool, I'm a better person for that. That moment made me a better person. That moment made us a stronger organization. And just to get real, so when I came back to the magazine, it was because my father had passed away. So I'd been away from the magazine at that point for about 3 years. I had the luxury of being a stay-at-home dad when my son was born. So my wife is a psychologist, so I give her a lot of material to work with. But when I came back to the magazine, it was at a time where I needed to be here to provide reassurances for the team, for the staff, and let them know that the magazine that my mom was the owner of after my dad, and she was already a part owner in it, but that we weren't selling it, that everybody was going to be taken care of. And so I came back here at this point where it was already a storm. We already had the team, so I was playing catch up. I was really trying to figure out, okay, who are these new people that weren't here 3 and 4 years ago when I had left to go be a stay-at-home dad, and now I'm back picking up where my dad had left off, and wanting to honor his lineage and wanting to honor the great strides that he had already made with the magazine, because we're 41 years now in publishing. So I certainly didn't want to burn it down and start all over, or run the risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But we needed to make it our own. And when Charles and I were coming on as business partners, that was one of the first things we tackled, is because at that point he and I had worked together for almost it was like 16, 17 years at that point. Now together we've worked together for 25 years, because he came on just after I did. So we've been with the magazine a combined total of 50 years, just to further make me sound like a really old man. But when we came together, we knew that we didn't want to keep the stuffy office setting. Not say it was that, but that's the perception of business. The perception of business is that it's old guys smoking cigars behind this dark, oak desk or something like that. At least maybe that's just my perception of it, because that's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
I grew up, following my dad to work, and that was the setting there. I mean, I literally remember going into his office and there were people smoking. This is in the 70s, when he had started the first business journal up here. And that was commonplace. And that was what I had in my head, was business. Yep. Business was old people smoking in an office. Yep. And almost an oppressive environment. And we just didn't want that for our team. So this is the long answer to your question.
Great question. That's a great answer, yeah.
So just to loop back to that, Charles and I knew we needed to push through that storm, because we were already there. These are people who are sorrowful because they lost a friend of theirs. This was my father. I was obviously sorrowful, but it also gave me a really important place to hang my hat, and it allowed me to channel my sadness in a way that was positive. Because now, instead of just moping around and being upset about my father's passing, it's more about how can we celebrate his legacy. Yes. And make this place even better, and make this place grow, and make it fun for everybody. So Charles and I really started working on our own approach to business. So we knew that form, storm, norm, perform process coming in, and how important that was going to be when we got to that norm. And your question, do you feel it? And yeah, the moment it happened for me, it was just like this aha moment. The clouds parted. Coming into the office, things felt a little different. And it was just this moment where you knew this is the next day. In storytelling, there's that. And then one day, right? And that's, every story has that.
Yeah.
Here's your normal. You wake up, you go to work. You wake up, you go to work. You wake up, you go to work. And then one day, and that was that moment. And I felt like in a great moment, and a great storytelling moment, was that moment you could feel. It was palpable walking into the office. Something had changed. We're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And we've just been flying ever since.
Now, how did you meet Charles? I mean, I've met Charles. For those who don't know Charles Bell, just amazing, innovative, wise man.
Yeah.
And he runs the sales side of the operation. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the officer salesperson, and I didn't know these people existed. But he doesn't sell. He communicates. He builds relationships. He builds partnerships. And if a sale comes out of that, great, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is connecting you with resources. And if we're a resource through advertising that will help you, great, let's talk about that. But if maybe you're not ready to advertise with us, but there's a competitor, a competing product or a competing magazine, or maybe you'd be better on radio, he's going to help find that connection and make that relationship. So so when Charles and I first started working, I was in the art department. I was making ads, and he was new to the world of sales, and he came on selling the ads that I was making. So we started an early partnership there, just in that he's selling ads and I'm making them. So we started through work here at Alaska Business, just kind of forced it together.
What did you notice about him early on? Tell me what you noticed early on.
But my first thought is he's so young, because he was, I mean, he and I are roughly the same age. He's a couple years older than I am, but don't tell him I said so. But he's much more handsome and charming than I am, so he makes up for it in that way.
He is a handsome dude.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, right? Lucky guy.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed is he wasn't pushy like a salesperson, like the way you expect a salesperson to be.
Yeah.
And in growing up around media and I mean, literally, like, my entire life I was groomed to be here, and I didn't know it at the time, even as a small child, following my dad to work and throwing newsprint out of the back of his car. I didn't know it then. I was being groomed for publishing. But the first thing I noticed with Charles is he wasn't selling. He wasn't out there like, oh, you need to buy this ad. But it just felt like this guy's not going to last. He's not pushing hard enough. He's not out there, beating down doors and ripping the person's checkbook out of their hand to fill it out themselves. And now there, I got your ad. But instead, he was just really kind of low key in his presentation and in his delivery, and he just didn't feel like a salesperson. And I'd worked in the alcohol industry up here for several years, and I knew very pushy salespeople that were willing to sell product to their clients, knowing their clients didn't need that product, and they were willing to even bend some rules to make sure that their product had prominence, even if it didn't benefit the customer. Even if this doesn't help them, I'm going to make sure my product is at the front of your store. And even if that client knows, well, I've got a better deal on this other product, it would serve me better to have that product at the front of the store, so I can move more of this product that's on sale. So I knew what I didn't like about sales, but I hadn't yet seen what I did like about sales. So it was over the relationship that Charles and I have developed now for 25 years that I realized what it is I appreciate and value so much about his approach, not just in sales, but in life. And that is, much like you, Johnny, that connecting. The way he's able to connect with people and connect other people to one another.
Yep.
So, again, lengthy answer to your question.
Yep.
I could have said, we met at work.
What would you say he noticed about you? Because, I mean, and I'm asking these questions because you've 25-year partnership, right? Mutual respect and a healthy team, a good thriving organization. Something gave birth to that, and a part of what gave birth to that was the dynamic relationship between the two of you, right? So,
Sure, yeah.
So what did he notice about you?
To be honest, because that's what we have to do here in life, and just to put it all out there, I think he noticed I was probably lazy. Yeah. I was doing the minimum to get by. I'd been at the magazine a couple years prior to his coming on board, and I really felt like I was just in a place where I was doing the minimum needed to check the box. I didn't plan on being at the magazine more than a year or two before I was going to start my own freelance company, which I had prior, but not with. Because you actually have to bill your clients. I found out, which I wasn't very good at. So, and you also have to be your own salesperson. You also have to be your own bookkeeper. You got to be your own tax consultant. You got to be all things business when you're running a solo shop. And I wasn't good at any of those things. I could push pixels, I could make pretty pictures, I could do that all day, and I loved it. But then incorporating all those other business aspects, it wasn't what I was interested in on the solo front. So when I came to work at the magazine, it was just to build up a portfolio that I could take to an agency and say, look at all these amazing ads I built in my 1 or 2 years with Alaska Business. So I think what he noticed when he first came on is here's a guy who's doing the minimum to get by. So early in our career together, he was kind of pushing me hey, I really want something different. I want to, and this is early on, again, just to date myself, in digital publishing. There wasn't a lot of digital ads at this point. PDFs were still becoming the norm. A lot of our ads at that point were still film. So he presented me with more challenges than any other sales rep, because he was constantly coming to me hey, I want to push the envelope. I want to do something different. I want to do something new. At that point, everybody was I want the shape of Alaska and my logo and a paragraph of type. That was innovative. And I was so tired of these cookie cutter ads. And I was doing, at the time I was building anywhere from 30 to 40 ads a month, which by today's standards is a lot. or AI can crank those out in 30 minutes. But at the time when it was all person pushing pixel,
Manual, yeah.
It was a lot of new material, but it all ended up being the same. It all ended up looking the same when I was done with it, and I couldn't get out of this rut. And he, I think, would have seen that. He would have seen, like, here's a guy who's just set in his way, not pushing, not driving. And it really wasn't until I came back to work at the magazine that I evolved. Because prior to that, I was kind of checking the box. I was showing up at work. I was stamping.
Yeah.
Like, here's the next ad, here's the next ad, here's the next ad. But through Charles, he really helped me push farther because he wanted more for his clients. He didn't want the same cookie cutter ads. Even if they came to us and said, we want a cookie cutter ad, or we just want to change out our logo. Well, great, you're changing your logo, you're changing your brand, let's change your ad. So Charles would come to me like, I want to change this ad. And I'm like, but the note here just says that they want to change out their logo. He's like, yeah, don't ignore that. They don't know what they want. I'm like, okay, it seems like they know what they want. So he would have me building multiple ads, so they would have multiple options. And for the guy who is in that moment in his life, who was just doing the minimum to get by, he was ruffling my feathers.
He did not like that. He didn't like that.
I don't want, just let me do the minimum. Let me stamp it and move on. But we pushed through that. We had our own form, storm, norm, perform. And when I came back to work at the magazine, I was in a different place. I was in a more mature and responsible and grown-up place, because it wasn't just me looking out for me. At that point, I then had a family. I had a wife. I had a child, and I had this team that I needed to look after here at the magazine. So it really forced me to grow up fast. But yeah. So again, lengthy answer to your question. When he first saw me, he probably thought slacker. There's the too long didn't read version.
Yeah. So then let me revamp the question a little bit.
Sure.
He has stayed in the partnership with you for 25 years, just like you stayed with him. So what was the potential that he saw, right? Like, so, or what did he see in you once you came back that made him think, this is a person I want to partner up with for the next multiple decades, potentially, right?
Yeah. So when I left the magazine to go be dad, he was still really involved on the sales side, and he was more or less managing the sales side. My dad was general manager and sales manager at the same, so he was wearing both those hats. When I came back to work, I both was grateful and for Charles still being here, and recognized he was the only person still on the team from when I was with the team even 3-4 years earlier. So it was good to see a friendly face and somebody I was familiar with, and he at that point knew enough about me. My trajectory changed from when he first met me to when I left the magazine, because during that same period of time I did get married, I did have a son. So my focus was changing even early in our relationship. So the first couple of years he knew me, I was that young slacker who's just checking the box because he's ready to move on to an agency and take over the design world. So our relationship evolved through that, and then once he was giving me more and more exciting ads and giving me more material I could actually chew on, I realized this wasn't a guy who was against me being a lazy slacker. This was a guy who was for getting the best ads and material into his clients' hands. And once I started shifting my perspective to be more like, this is an opportunity to play. This is me in the sandbox. This is what I want. This is why I want to be an agency in the first place, because every challenge coming across my desk is new and unique. It's not just another shape of Alaska with a logo and a paragraph of type. He was challenging me in ways that no other rep had at that point. And this was prior to us becoming business partners. This was when I was still in the ad world. So coming back, I was coming back to that relationship, not the one where I was still the slacker, but the one where he had encouraged me and had challenged me and had given me more to look forward to in my job. So coming back to work here, I was very grateful he was still here, because I knew that both he and my dad were working on getting him a full-fledged partner, making him a full-fledged partner in the business with my dad. So we were able to pick up that relationship that he had with my dad, him very coming on as an owner, and just pick up and run with it. So, and honestly, it's one of the best things Alaska Business as a 40-plus year entity has ever done is keep his relationship healthy, keep the relationship with him, with that entity, because he's done so much for the magazine over the years, not just on the sales side, but in the relationship building. And you don't become a 40-year organization by burning bridges or by taking, but by giving. So that's one of the things we always focus on, is how can we give in this relationship more than we get from this relationship.
Yep. Yep. Value creation. You
Yeah.
see it as the ability to add, or even the calling to add value.
Yeah, right.
And,
Well put.
and a lot of that is probably small businesses in your region, like leaders in small businesses, but then also the business community who's consuming the content.
Yeah. Because we have advertisers that have been with us since day one. We've still got advertisers in the magazine that signed on with us 40 years ago. So and they're still partners with us, and we still have great relationships with those organizations. So yeah, we're just Charles and I both have talked about this. We're just the custodians here.
Yep.
We're not the owners.
Yep.
We're just the people who have the great luxury of being in these chairs for now. But we're going to turn this over to somebody else at some point. 40-year organization doesn't end with us. We're just holding on to it to pass it on to the next better thing for the organization.
So what would you say? I'm going to actually circle a couple of things that I've heard so far. So it sounds like you have that improv energy. It's a playful energy. It's there's a curiosity to it. You're good at connecting with people. You're an extrovert. Charles, your business partner, has his own version of that energy. He is also a connector. A connector of people.
Very much, yeah.
He's fun to be around. He's a dreamer. He's a big visionary. He's got big picture ideas. And so, what are you two? What have you found trickles down through the organization through the two of you, and how does that manifest in the organization?
Yeah, I think it started with that form, storm, norm, perform. It started with that collaborative focus. When we came back to work together as partners. My dad really was the general manager. He was the ad sales manager. He was the publisher. He was wearing all these hats, and it wore on him. I mean, you could see it that was a lot of stress, and I knew I didn't want that for me. Not
Yes.
because I was echoing back to that 20-something slacker, but I knew that was just too many hats to wear.
Yes.
So Charles and I spoke about like how do we share that responsibility? And for me, it was leaning back on my improv, and it was looking at every time I walk on stage in improv, I know everybody off stage is waiting. They're like runners in the chocks on the track. They're just waiting for the gun to go off that says, I need you out here. And they're there instantly.
Yes.
Oftentimes before they even know what that is. Again, that's that follow your gut, follow your foot, and then ultimately follow your fear. They don't know why they're being called out. I might just say, oh, geez, oh, look, here comes my crazy Aunt Martha. They don't know why they're being summoned, but there they are.
Yeah, they're ready.
Yeah, and I knew I wanted that in my life, and I wanted that in our business, that feeling that no matter what challenge is put in front of us, we're all here to come to a solution together and
Yes.
to benefit from that solution. So to help each other and ultimately help our clients, help our readers, help everybody in that process. So when we came back together to make our own Super Friends, that was one of our, and especially my focus was how do we get to that group collaboration?
Yes.
It's not just one person sitting in this chair, this publisher chair, which is one I've avoided, and you and I have spoken about. I don't like the term publisher for myself, especially because that is too focused. That tells the world that this person focuses other people, and I don't want that. I want to be on stage with these people. I want to collaborate with them. So we share the stage, we share the limelight. The art director has a great idea. Great, let's follow that and support her this month in this great vision she has for the cover. Another month it might be our editor who's got a great idea for something editorial, and how can we support that either through cover art or through the story itself or through the art director finding an artist who can help elevate that story. So we share the focus, we share the spotlight across all departments and all people, and that was one of the things that was really important to me coming back, that I keep that collaboration in my life and bring that
Yep.
to this stage, to this
Yep.
business arena.
Because that's the kind of leader that you are, right? So that's if the success of your company has something to do with the fact that you came back and you had an emphasis on collaboration, and you wanted to empower others, and that's the improv lesson a little bit, right? Like you want to empower the people around you because you realize this is a group performance that depends on everybody contributing and everybody feeling like they matter and have something of value to give.
Right. Yeah.
And then releasing people to do that, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool. I want to buy the book. Like, when's the book coming out, dude? Are you going to write the book or what? Because the way you talk, bro, you talk like, oh yeah, this is like from chapter 2 of the book. Like, that's how you talk. You talk like the book's already written, dude. So
it needs to be, and it's one of those things. Yeah, it's just, you know this. You're published.
Yeah.
I'm talking to an author right now. Boom, I'm published. Check me out on Amazon. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Okay.
The idea of improv in business, and there may even be books on the subject now. There weren't years ago when I was looking into it, but the idea being that you don't plan, you just show up. I mean, and you do have to plan, so that is kind of a misnomer. You do have to make some plans, and Charles is great at that. But in improv, you can't be all things to all people. I don't know the most about character work, but maybe I'm really good about setting up a scene and miming what this scene is about, this location we're in. So everybody has different roles in an improv scene, and everybody has different strengths. So the same is true in business, and you try and surround yourself with those people who are really good at those different things. So you have all those superpowers around the boardroom, around the table. So you can call on each person's superpower, and you have this Justice League. You have this mighty Avengers that you can call on. Right? The world's greatest hero, Johnny. Yeah. So that's where we landed is wanting to build that team and want to bring that to fruition, and that's actually chapter 3. So I'll let you know when the book's published.
I believe it, dude. I really do believe it, and not only, and when I hear it, I'm like, that's going to be a good book, right? It's going to be a good book because I think those principles, like for whatever reason, man, they have cemented in your mind. And you've been able to go and live them out as practice. And so you're going to be able to write that book having lived the book, right? Which is the best books. The best books are the ones where it's not theory anymore. Somebody lived through it. Somebody did it. You've obviously done this with your team, and I commend you for it. I think that's amazing, man. And you seem to have an amazing team. Everybody that I've met so far, quality people, tightly knit. You're doing the thing that people long to create.
And we're lucky and we're blessed in that we have found people who have that same mindset and that same mentality that want to work around other collaboratives and other thinkers and other doers. So yeah, I'm very blessed every morning. Wake up thinking that.
Very cool. Well, it's time to go. I could talk to you for a couple more hours though. I could talk to you for a couple more hours. Yeah. But I do want to say, man, thank you for just sitting with me and for letting us into your life and the way and your perspective of business and all the gold nuggets that are in that, because I do think there's a lot of wisdom in what you shared today. So thanks for sitting with us, Jason.
Johnny, thanks for this platform, man. Thanks for getting all these cool people on here, cool people and me, on here to talk about their life and share their story. I've said this about you. You are one of the greatest connectors of our time, honestly.
Thank you, man.
The sessions I've had the great pleasure of sitting in on with you and other amazing people. You do just such a great service to everybody that you connect with. So thank you.
I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. And everybody that's been with us up to this point, thanks for hanging out with us. And I'm sure you got a few laughs out of this, and you probably got some profound wisdom out of it. So thanks for hanging out with us, and I'm going to continue to bring you people that are going to inspire you forward in your media journey. So take it easy, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Johnny.